Hi everyone, it's Tanya Kraus here, and you are joining me for Let's Talk Horses. So today what I wanted to talk about was setting ourselves and our horses up for success and what the steps in that process can look like. Oftentimes we have a look at success as being the end point or the end goal in whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. So for example, if we're float loading or trailer loading for my international friends, success is getting the horse on the trailer, closing the trailer and going for a drive, getting to our destination. What we need to understand is that there are elements of success in the steps leading up to that point. It's not as defined as anything other than getting the horse on the trailer and going somewhere is failure, and getting the horse on the trailer and going somewhere is success. I like to look at it in this way because I've seen a lot of horses get on trailers and go somewhere and they are stressed. They arrive at their destination, elevated, bothered, sweaty, shaking, all of those things. And so for me, even though the broad strokes of the goal were achieved, the horse got on the trailer and went somewhere, it wasn't successful in that the horse wasn't relaxed, the horse wasn't confident, which for me personally makes me uncomfortable with the whole trip. If I know I've got a horse in the trailer that's bothered, I already know that they're in an elevated state, and so maybe it will only take a bump in the road or a truck driving past or something like that to really trigger them and set off a not great incident. So what I want to look at is success. I'm just arranging my notes here. There's a bit of a breeze blowing. So what I want to look at is success in the steps that go into it, and giving ourselves a little bit more opportunity to be successful in the steps along the way, instead of just defining success as being that end point. So at any cost. So the first step in setting ourselves up for success is defining success, as in by all means write down getting my horse on the trailer and going somewhere. So define success and what that complete picture looks like. So something that we'll talk about a lot in clinics, for example, is, let's say we're executing a maneuver and let's say that maneuver's stopping. So we ask the riders to, do whatever they're doing, and then we work on the stop and we'll say, okay, bring the horse to a stop. And the horses might physically stop their feet, but they're hard in their, they're leaning on the rider, they're still pulling on the hands of the rider. And then also they are thinking forward. So their feet might be stopped, but their mind isn't stopped. So we like to say stopping softly. So not only is the horse physically stopped, they're mentally soft, but they're physically stopped, mentally stopped, but they're willingly stopped as well, being that they're soft in the hands. They've actually executed that stop softly. So I want to look at my ultimate picture of success in whatever it is that I'm doing, in, what it looks like physically, what it looks like mentally, and what it looks like in relation to what I would call soft feel. So what the horse is bringing to me and what I am bringing to the horse. So again, for trailer loading, not only does it look physically like the horse is in the trailer, but the horse is mentally in the trailer, relaxed, confident in the trailer, and I'm relaxed. I'm happy to walk up to that trailer and ask the horse. It doesn't cost me anything, it doesn't cost the horse anything. So I want to define my success end picture into those three elements: physical, mental, and soft feel or willingness. And I also then want to start backtracking to excuse the helicopters. I'm currently filming at home. We've got fires surrounding, not our home, thankfully, and the fires that were surrounding our home have been controlled in the last, maybe 4 or 5 days ago. But there are local fires really close, as you can hear, and the helicopters are actually landing and refueling at the showground, which our property backs onto the showground, so they're coming really close to us. And they were actually getting water out of one of our neighbours' dams. So I can't do anything about the choppers, but I do want to go forward and film as much as I can for you. So I wanted to find success in that end picture, but then I also wanted to find the micro steps in that picture. So what does it look like? It looks like that my horse is relaxed when he sees the trailer. It looks like my horse leads softly. That doesn't even have anything to do with the trailer. Does my horse even lead softly and quietly in the field, let alone when I'm asking him to do something? Does he lead willingly when I'm asking him to do something? So you can see how there's all of these elements that can go into that end picture, and there's also lots of steps that go into that picture. So my next point is to do the identification of those steps. Depending on how, if I'm trailer loading a foal, for example, or teaching a foal for the very first time, then a foal is probably going to be curious, they're going to be willing, they're going to be interested. So there's not going to be any reservations to overcome with the horse. Whereas if I'm dealing with a horse that has been on the trailer before and is a problem trailer loader, then I'm going to be having to deal with potentially issues that come up for the horse as soon as they see the trailer. I've worked with horses that have stopped a good 20 meters away from the trailer. That's about 60 feet. I've had them see the trailer and just dig in straight away. They've immediately 50 meters away got an issue with the trailer. So I'm not going to try and get them closer to the trailer. I'm going to try and get them relaxed at 60 feet, at 50 feet, at 40 feet, at 30 feet, at 20 feet, and so on and so forth. So you can now start to identify the steps within that whole goal, what it looks like for the actual horse and element that you're looking for. So again, you might be working on a ridden maneuver, you might be working on a ground maneuver, you might be working on just simply day-to-day, rugging or feeding or whatever. So only you can define what success is, what it looks like, and then start to identify the steps that go into that. When we identify the steps that go into that, what that does is it gives us a pathway to the places that we can confidently stop in the training process and leave it there. It gives us ways that we can work with the horses maybe in a shorter time frame. Again, if you're working with a problem trailer loader that takes hours to get on the trailer, then you're probably saying, well, I've only got 3 hours on Sunday, so I can only trailer load on Sunday. Whereas if you start to identify the micro steps along the way, then you might have 10 minutes a day to work on trailer loading, and it might not even involve the trailer. It might involve teaching the horse to lead softly. It might involve the horse being relaxed just with the trailer in sight, things like that. So we want to identify the steps along the way, and then before we start training the horse, we want to prioritize relaxation. And there's 2 reasons for that. So the first reason is for the horse. If you prioritize relaxation, then it becomes an enjoyable experience for you. It becomes an enjoyable experience for the horse. No one needs to be stressed and elevated when they're being taught anything, human or horse. But what relaxation also does is it facilitates that the horse is going to retain the lesson. They're going to learn the lesson that is being taught at the time. It's been proven in studies that horses that are elevated in their emotional and physical state, if they're in a stressed state, they are far less likely to retain information than when they're in a relaxed state. So what we have to do is prioritize the relaxation so the horse learns to be active in their thought process rather than reactive in their thought process. So we prioritize relaxation, and therefore we're prioritizing the retention. So the lessons learned are actually going to stick and be taken through to the next day. We have to adopt a training approach which allows us to be flexible in our stopping point. Now, this is really important. Just this morning, I was working with Angel, one of my young horses, and she has been, those of you that have been following her training on my Patreon, you'll know that she's been quite difficult in asking her to move forward freely at liberty. So I've done a lot of work, actually I shouldn't say that. I haven't done a lot of work. I've done work, or I prioritized work in the round pen when I first started working with her, and I did about 10 sessions in the round pen. I filmed them all. I think the longest one was about 19 minutes. Most of them were 10 to 15 minutes. So I haven't done a lot in terms of there haven't been hour-long sessions or anything like that. And when I worked with her back in, let's say 2 or 3 months ago, so I'm filming this in October, so let's say, August, July, something like that, I was working with her in the round pen, and she was really struggling with the idea of me just asking her to trot around me. She would stop, she would back up, she would try and change direction, and it wasn't anything other than confusion on her part, but also experience on her part. She'd had some traumatic experiences with quite elevated work being done in the round pen. So when I was working with her back then, as soon as she even thought about going forward, I would stop and call her in and say, yep, good girl, that's what I wanted. So to my delight, when I started asking her only yesterday, I worked with her at Liberty in my larger square yard. I asked her to go. As soon as I did the body language cue, she immediately walked off. She knew exactly what I wanted, so she had retained the information. And quite happily, she sort of trotted off, and then she had a little bit of a kick up and things like this, but it was forward. Whereas, 2 months ago, she would stop and do that suck back thing. So even though she was sort of having a little bit of a kick up and stuff about it, I wasn't having to put excess pressure on her. She was really, really aware of what I was asking, and she was really willing to have a conversation around what I was asking. So yesterday when I worked with her, again, I filmed it for my account, and it was under 5 minutes. And because it was the first time back after like 2 months, I thought, okay, I'm going to leave it there. That's fantastic. Just, you allow her mind to go, oh, okay, we're doing this again, no problem. Because I have been doing a 30-day challenge with her, but what I've been doing is picking up her feet, grooming her, doing some energy work, just asking her to move around, like move her hindquarters and things like that, and water my energy. So I hadn't done any forward movement work with her until yesterday. So yesterday, again, I introduced it slowly, and at about that 4.5 minute mark, I think the video ended up being, I said, that's enough. We'll come back to it tomorrow. I'm excited about tomorrow. Well, so tomorrow is today, and I worked with her this morning, and the same thing happened. Brilliant. This horse is really, really smart. So she retained it again. As soon as I did the body language, she sent off really easily. She, one of the things that we were having trouble with is when she's anxious, she literally flattens out her nose and goes like a giraffe, but upside down like that, and really tension through her neck. So we've been working on that again 2 months ago, where when she dropped her head, I would call her in straight away. Again, I only did 10 sessions with her. Yesterday, there was a little bit of it, but not much of it. Today, I asked her to leave. There was forward pretty much straight away willing. She put her head down straight away willing, and so I called her in straight away, tried the other side, and we got to about 3.5, 4 minutes, and she came in, she went, and it was really nice, and I could see her do like a big breath out, and I called her in, and she walked up to me, and she put her head really low, and she did this huge big out breath, and then another one, and then a lick and chew, and then a yawn, and then all of this stuff started coming out. And I wanted to keep going, because I was like, we've got it. You know, she's really understanding this. This looks fantastic. It's an improvement on yesterday. There was no kicking up. There was no tantrum. There was no nothing. But I knew in my heart that the best thing for me to do was stop. And it was only 3.5 minutes. So I really feel like we have to have that flexibility in us where we allow the horse's body language to tell us that's enough for today, because if I've got the ability to check myself and leave it for tomorrow, I know that tomorrow is going to be even better, like it was yesterday. So having that flexibility around your stopping point, and sometimes recognizing, you know, maybe we only get 1 foot on the tailgate, or maybe the horse is still 20 meters away, but they put their head down and they blow and they relax and they show you like, whoa, this was really big for me. If we can stop there and say, yeah, that was great, then it fast tracks our performance, or their performance, or our success. So we really have to let go of the idea of like, well, I've only done 3 minutes, what a waste of time. Or we're not even at the horse trailer yet, what a waste of time. We have to let go of all that and be flexible in watching our horse's body language and understanding like, wow, they've had a big moment here. I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe we don't understand it. Maybe we don't know why. But maybe we just go, wow, they're having a big moment. I'm going to leave it here. And maybe you leave it for an hour. Maybe you've got the time to go back in an hour. Maybe you've got the time to go back in the afternoon. It doesn't really matter. But what matters is that you recognize that and you take that resting point. So remember mañana, which means tomorrow. There's always tomorrow to do something else. That brings me to our being prepared, willing to change. All right. So being willing to change what our plan of the day was. And sometimes that means, as I just explained, maybe stopping a little bit earlier than we would want. Maybe it means stopping sort of not, maybe we had a plan to get 1 foot on the trailer, on the tailgate of the trailer, but maybe the horse stopped, 2 meters before the tailgate, but was really relaxed. And so we wanted to stop there. So maybe changing is stopping, but maybe changing is also changing what we're working on that day. So let's say that we got to the trailer, or we got to, part way to what it is we were doing, and something else comes up, something else that seems to be important. So let's say the horse starts leaning on the halter, or pulling, or pushing, or doing something. Sometimes we've got to leave this exercise over here and maybe work on a leading exercise. So we might say, but I wanted to work on trailer loading, I didn't want to work on leading, but we know in reality that we need leading, we need willing leading before we can work on the trailer. So we need to be able to abort that mission over here, and we need to be able to change our plan, which may still be, and very often is, something that is related to the end goal, what we want to be working on. Sometimes it looks like something totally different. Maybe you go down the paddock and you're wanting to spend some nice quiet connection time. You want to do a little massage, or maybe you've got like a little red light. I've got a red light or something, and you want a really quiet session, and you think, oh, I'm just going to relax with my horse. And you get down there and they're, excited to see you, and they're trotting around and doing stuff, and you think, you know what, that horse does not want to be quiet today. That horse has got some energy, and maybe we can have some playtime, or maybe we can work on canter departs because they look like they're ready for canter departs. And the other side is true. Maybe you go down there wanting to work on canter departs, and the horse is all got his eyes lowered, and he's sort of looking for a snooze, and maybe you think, maybe not canter departs today. Maybe I need to work on my, some release techniques, or just hanging out with the horse, or something like that. So setting ourselves up for success is being flexible enough to change our plan of the day, because you're taking what the horse is naturally inclined to, and you're working with that. Now, some of you watching might think, well, what if it's show day? Like, he can't always just be sleepy on show day. I've got to pull him out. I'm not saying don't create a work ethic. I'm not saying that some days, my horses work for a living. That's what they do. They're clinic horses. They're demonstration horses. So Some days I go down there and they've got to go on the trailer for 5 hours, or they've got to go to a clinic and teach all day, or they've got to do this, or they've got to do that. There's often times that they have to do things that they don't want to do, but it doesn't mean that you have to push back on that every single time you interact with your horse. All right, there's some days when I have to do things that I don't want to do, and there's other days when I wake up and walk into the kitchen and the kitchen's a total mess and I've got a full plate and I think, you know what, I'm just going to go to the shop and get myself a cup of coffee, and that's that. Sometimes that's what you need. You know, in human terms, we often call them mental health days. Sometimes your horse needs a mental health day. Sometimes you need to be able to recognize, let's just change. Let's just do something different today. And that's how relationship works. It's give and take. So I want to give you a couple of examples of setting up for success that I have done recently with, I've got Safi, who is a young little foal. She would have just she's turning 2 around now, like in October. And so I haven't been doing much with her at all. I'm totally happy with her to just be in the herd and be growing and all of those sorts of things. But I've had a couple of opportunities. Again, I've been doing the 30-day challenge with her, which is actually a 100-day challenge, but I'm only home for 30 days, so I've changed it to a 30-day challenge. It's, for those of you on Facebook, if you go to the Facebook group, hashtag TKH100, the number's 100, so TKH100 Revolution. It's a 100-day challenge where you do something other than just feeding your horse for 100 days. And I'm going to do a whole episode on the idea around this, so I'm not going to explain it too much now. I'm doing a 30-day challenge. So I'm trying to do something other than just feeding Angel, Safi, and Galliano for 30 days because I'm home for 30 days. So I've been working with Safi, basically just doing citizen stuff, just making sure she can pick up her feet, and not me pick up her feet, but she pick up her feet for me. You know, grooming her. We're coming into summer, so we've got a lot of ticks and things like that, so I've been pulling ticks off her and stuff like that. And I've had a couple of opportunities where, you know, I bring all my horses in to feed, and when I can, which I'm home at the moment, so I can at the moment, I sort of like to separate them into different yards so everyone can just relax around their feed and not get into that big tussle. When one finishes, then they push the next one off and so on and so forth. So Safi was in the arena the other day. Our arena is probably about 50 meters by 30. And she was in there and everyone had finished eating. She had finished eating, and I was slowly letting everyone out into the paddock, into the big paddock. And I sort of let everybody out, and she was the last one. And all of my other horses, I can lead with a neck rope. So, you know, I just have a little string that I can have in my pocket, and I can just put a little neck rope around and I can lead them, you know, to get through a gate or something like that. Most of us probably do that as horse owners at some point or another. Some of us as horse owners probably don't realise that somewhere along the line we have to teach our horse that, because it's not a common thing. So I wanted to move Safi. I didn't have a halter. I only had the neck rope. And I kind of knew there was a couple of elements to setting up for success. One, I knew that she would want to go back out with the herd because everybody had been let out already. So I made sure that I went through a gate that was the gate that was logical to her to take out. I made sure that I wasn't just, so step one was, you know, just environmentally making sure that I was setting her up for success. What was the natural path that she was going to take? So I wasn't running into resistance in that way. Step number 2 was recognizing that Safi doesn't know, you know, I haven't led her with a neck rope like that before. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't just get so focused on dragging her to the gate, that I was more focused on what I wanted her to do around the neck rope. So put the neck rope on, and when I put a little bit of pressure into it, I wanted her to come away from the pressure, to step towards me. So I made sure that I was more focused on like unlocking her feet and making sure the neck rope was soft on her, instead of just getting hyper focused on the gate. So that was number 2. Number 3, when I went to leading, I made sure that I had the arena fence sort of blocking instead of walking down the middle of the arena, so I had 20 meters on one side and 20 meters on the other as I walked to the gate. what I wanted to do was I sort of led her along the rail, like the arena rail. So basically I was beside the arena rail like this. So you had me on one side, the fence on the other. I wasn't squishing her, like I wasn't trying to create claustrophobic circumstances, because obviously that in itself could have made her shoot forward or shoot backwards. But I just wanted it to be illogical for her to pull away from me. So I was on the inside, the fence was on the outside, and as we sort of walked towards the gate, even if she wanted to, it didn't enter her mind to pull away from me because there was a fence there stopping her. So I hope I'm making sense in that regard. It was just kind of like, it sort of prevented her from having a thought that she may have had. The fourth thing was that in all of my training, I'm always prepared to change. Okay, so I was definitely prepared to, if she had not been able to navigate with that neck rope or anything like that, I was prepared to go back to getting a little step towards me, take the neck rope off. I would have walked to the car, got the halter and put the halter on and led her through the gate, or stop, get the softness that I'm after, take the neck rope off, go to the gate, open the gate, and then see if she can, logically go out the gate herself. So I was definitely prepared to change in that regard. Another circumstance that I had with Safi, I'm going to tell you 3. Another circumstance that I had with Safi as part of this challenge, it's something other than feeding every day for 30 days. So I've already told you guys that. So oftentimes, as I said, I've been working on picking up her feet, or teaching her to pick up her feet for me, not me having to pull her feet off the ground. I was running late the other day. I had a clinic to go to, and so I had really limited time. So I didn't catch the horses and put them all in yards. I fed them all out in a big open field, or I don't even know if I was feeding them. I think I just went down there to do something other than feeding them for my 30-day challenge. So with Galliano, I picked up her feet in the big open field because I knew that she had done it enough that she would go, oh yeah, I'll pick up my feet, no problem at all. Angel, same thing. I went, she's done it enough. Safi, even when I've got the halter on, every now and then she'll sort of pull her leg away and say, oh no, I don't want you to do that. So I knew that trying to pick up her feet in a big open paddock surrounded by other horses, and other horses that do tend to push her around, I knew that I was potentially setting myself up for failure had I tried to do that. Because if I picked up her foot and she went to walk off, I would have had no way of catching her because I didn't put the halter on. I was at liberty. So you've got to think, well, do I pick up her feet and allow her to learn that she can walk away on me? Or do I find something else to do as part of this exercise? So what I chose to do was just give her a groom and do a little bit of what I call like a guided grooming. So I put my hands on her and I, might start to scratch her at the wither, and then I allow her to sort of move around and show me where she wants to scratch. So it's like a little conversation, something I can do in 5 or 10 minutes. And it's engaging for her. Obviously she likes it because she's getting a scratch out of it. So that was a way to set myself up for success in regards to not doing something that I could have failed at miserably, and would have taught her that she could actually walk away on me. The third situation was with Safi again. She's the young one, so there's lots of opportunities for this. This morning, I wanted to lead her around. We've got a few little obstacles set up, like just some logs on the ground. I had called everyone into the yards for feeding, so everyone was in the yards. They were all eating or whatever. I think they'd all finished. No, I fed them after I did this. So everyone was in the yards, and I put them all in the yards and then caught her and took her over the logs, which are down beside the yards, because that way there wasn't other horses milling around. There wasn't other horses that were going to come in and try and push on us or anything like that. We had the obstacles to ourselves, but she also had the security of knowing that the herd was right there by her side. It wasn't that I, grabbed her and took her far, far away from the herd. And again, long term, I want her to be able to go away from the herd, but setting up for success is about knowing that the steps along the way are her being able to be led around the obstacles with the safety of the herd, and then maybe on her own, and so on and so forth. So I hope this gives you a few ideas about setting up for success, and how setting yourself up for success it's thinking smarter, and sometimes an old school thought might creep in, where you might go, oh, but she should be able to pick her feet up in the herd, or she should be able to lead away from the herd. I agree 100%, but it takes time and confident training sessions to get there, not just making the horse do it, and be damned the consequences. Like I say, relaxation facilitates retention. That's what we've got to be focused on. So I hope that gave you a few ideas. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you on the next episode.